I feel as though at Pulpit and Pen we've been talking about social justice and the danger of creeping liberalism, social progressivism from Russell Moore, the ERLC, Tim Keller, Matt Chandler, and the New Calvinists for the longest time. What else is there to say? And I see good men saying a lot of things, and I'm glad they're saying it. I'm glad that Tom Askell got around to addressing Matt Chandler on Twitter regarding the video that he did for Vox, in which he said Americans lost their soul for voting for Donald Trump. I'm glad that Tom Askell tweets that stuff. I'm glad that he is about a month behind Pulpit and Pen. I'm glad that the signers of the Dallas Statement, the vast majority of them who have been utterly and totally silent on the threat of Russell Moore and the threat of cultural Marxism and critical race theory and creeping egalitarianism and what is best summarized as feminism and tolerance towards LGBTQXYZ, LMNOP ideology, and have been subtly promoting gay propaganda. I'm thankful that they're now, after mocking Pulpit and Pen for 3 or 4 years, in some cases rebuking us, I'm glad that they're now finally saying what we were saying years ago. And yeah, I'm a little bit frustrated at some of them. I still don't understand why the vast majority of those signers aren't able to say in the strongest of terms that they rebuke and repudiate the Gospel Coalition. I don't understand why some of them are continuing to speak in lineups with many of the culprits that they claim in the Dallas Statement are weakening the pure proclamation of the gospel. I don't understand why. Listen, I'm just going to say it. Josh Bice, great guy, I'm sure. I've spoken to him once or twice. He seems not like a nice guy. But if you're going to draw a line in the sand with a statement, draw a freaking line in the sand. Why are some of these guys speaking at G3? Why? If you're going to draw a line in the sand, just do it. Why are some of the signers of the statement continuing to tweet attaboys at the Gospel Coalition? Here's a good article from the Gospel Coalition. I don't understand what you're doing. Can we not mark them as someone who is causing division by teaching what is contrary to sound doctrine? I wonder, do y'all still golf together? So yeah, I'm a little frustrated at that. And I'd rather just not talk about it for the time being before I say things that I regret. You sound bitter, says the voice, the critical voice in my head. I'm going to try to work on that. As a matter of fact, let me read to you what I wrote on Facebook while I'm scrambling for material to talk about. I'm very thankful to the drafters and the signers of the Dallas Statement on social justice and the gospel. It's needed. So please let nothing that follows this undermine that appreciation. I and Pulpit and Pen and very few others have been sounding the alarm bell on the Gospel Coalition, Russell Moore, the ERLC, Tim Keller, Matt Chandler, and the other woke Calvinists for the longest time. With few exceptions, Phil Johnson being one of them, the list of premier signatories on the Dallas Statement are a list of men who have, for years, either ignored the impending threat to evangelicalism or in some cases publicly rebuked us for saying then what they have finally affixed their name to now. It is, as they say, better late than never. Nate Pickowitz did that, by the way. I had my name off of it, but now I put my name out. Now I was a little bit afraid of what people would think of me, but now I put my name on it again, and I want everybody to know that I'm for it. If you're going to lead. Enough of the hashtag slacktivism on Twitter, all right? Enough of that. And listen, mercy's sakes, people, if you're going to say adding to the gospel works of social justice is a compromise to the gospel, it is time for fraternalism with these men to be done. And what I've seen come from some of the signers of the Dallas Statement, again, I think most of them are just fine gentlemen. For the sake of being, I don't know if it's kind-hearted or open-minded, or you don't want anyone to say of you the things that they've said of me. Maybe that's what it is. You just want to be well thought of. First of all, we're all going to end up hanging on the same gallows eventually. I want you to understand that. I mean that term metaphorically, but also in a way literally. Who knows where this is going to wind up? I'm a premillennialist, and from what I hear, that's a pessimistic eschatology. We're all going to hang on the same gallows. I don't care how politely you put it, you're going to end up swinging from the same tree at the hands of the same lynch mob. I'll talk about two characters. One is Daryl B. Harrison. The other one is A.D. Robles. A.D. Robles is setting himself on fire right now. I just want you to understand that. If Robles is listening, you're setting yourself on fire. The tone of voice, I don't think I said that right. The tone of voice that you use, because if you're going to be the tone police, you got to sound like it. The tone of voice that you use, Mr. Robles, it's a lot more like mine than it is, say, Tom Askell's. He's setting himself on fire. He's saying things in a certain way that it's incredibly true, but you're not supposed to say it that way. He will be, and he is now, being marginalized off into the shadows. And then you have Daryl Harrison, who I think is really smart, and I totally endorse everything I've ever seen from him. I haven't seen everything. I'm not omniscient. But from what I've seen from him has been really spot on. But he's much more guarded in what he tweets, podcasts, or says than Mr. Robles. Here's what I want you to understand. Mr. Robles and Mr. Harrison, two different approaches. They're going to wind up on the same gallows because they have the same perspective. At the end of the day, no one is going to give you a pass on your persecution for Christ's righteousness' sake because of your tone of voice. It's not going to happen. Pick a team, everybody. It's time. Time to pick a team. Had the majority of the initial signatories spoken out boldly and by the way, I'm not saying like we should pit those two guys out. I'm sure they're working on the same team, they're friends or whatever, they know each other through social media. Good guys. I just want to point out, no matter how polite you put something, when they mark you, when the opposition marks you, they're coming for you. My attitude is just play the man and let's do this thing. Now, had the majority of the initial signatories spoken out boldly and polemically circa 2013, 2014, these latte mafia of woke social justice warriors would not have had the momentum to overtake wider evangelicalism to virtually no resistance, except for a very small corner of our blogosphere. Instead, arms were laid down, their blitzkrieg was nearly altogether unopposed. The consequences of their delays in action will be insurmountable if it weren't for the power of Christ. Now, ultimately, my premillennial eschatology is optimistic. I deny the accusation that it's pessimistic. In the interim, it's pessimistic as all get out. But ultimately, Christ Jesus will conquer in person. I feel like I've banged the gong and cranked the siren until my hands bled, while most of the Dallas Statement signers were still doing conferences and RTing these dangerous change agents. Even now, most refuse to treat these enemies of the gospel as anything but misguided, but well-intentioned brothers. I saw this to say, just pay attention. For the love of all that is good and pure, be discerning. God has given you advance notice of these things, if only you will listen. If the Dallas Statement would have been done in 2014, 2015, it would have taken the wind out of the sails. People would have been alert. Instead, what you have are whole swaths of young men who go to relatively conservative Bible colleges and seminaries and churches, who now say, my pastor gave me this book from Tim Keller. How bad can he be? Flaming Marxist, egalitarian, quasi-universalist who thinks Roman Catholics are going to heaven. He's no more reformed than Leighton Flowers. Well, how bad could John Piper be? Because he was at G3. He can't be that. This is what you've done by inaction, by not speaking up. And I don't want to hear. This is why I shouldn't even be talking about this right now. I don't want to hear anyone say, "Well, we didn't know back then." Baloney. Because I've had private conversations with not some, but a majority of the initial signatories of the Dallas Statement going back to 2013, 2014. Half of them have spoken at my conferences. But it's like we got to get a gang together to speak out. Frustrating. Watchmen have been on the wall shouting about the danger of the pure gospel for years, and now, short of God's power, it's too late. The ERLC and the SBC, by extension, Together for the Gospel Coalition, 9 marks, that's with an X, by the way, Acts 29, and major seminaries like Southeastern, Southern, Westminster, Philadelphia, RTS are all in on a social justice movement that is altogether indistinguishable from the social religion that gutted the mainstream denominations only 2 generations ago. And now the evangelical world is being swallowed up to the sound of thunderous applause of 1,000 limp wrists. Sam Alberry, a homo priest, spoke on family, urging us to redefine it at an ERLC event. And a guy in the pulpit bunker, I hope it was tongue-in-cheek, said the day that happens is the day I leave the Southern Baptist Convention. Read the article! That actually happened. As a matter of fact, let me pull that up. Let me pull up that article. Oh, I said I wasn't going to talk about it. Gay priest speaks at Southern Baptist event. Written by Thomas Littleton. The ERLC just completed its 2018 Cross-Shaped Family Conference in Dallas, which was the second of an annual event. I'm just going to ... That's the name of the article. Go check it out. I don't want to spend much of the program talking about this. I don't really want to spend any of it, but it keeps pulling me back in like the gravitational pull of a black hole. Replacement theology of the communitarian family. The goal of Sam Alberry. What his purpose and desire is for the church. Here's a goal of Sam Alberry and his... What was it called? I forget the name of it. The church inventory? No, what did they call it? Somebody put that in the comment thread. The Living Out Inclusion Training. Number 10, we encourage evangelical congregations to welcome and accept ACCEPT, not EXCEPT. ACCEPT, accept, embrace, all right? Sexually active lesbians and gay men. No. No, because that's not what a church is. No, because your ecclesiology stinks. No, 1,000 times no. This homosexual promoted this at the ERLC. I'm sorry, we live in a day and time where a woman who still acts like a lesbian and looks like a lesbian, and I'm talking about Jackie Hill Perry, still is put on the stage and given spotlight by the Gospel Coalition while she espouses her social justice liberation theology poppycock. No thanks. Sorry. No. Done with that. If you're still a Southern Baptist and you're not thinking of how to get out, what more do you need?